All right. Welcome to our community meeting, which has over time shrunk down to just really a developers update. Um, both TimeWarrior and TaskWarrior are very mature products, as I said in my last post on Discord. So we're at a point where there's a bit of a lull in the amount of development that's going on. So we've taken a bit of a break. There's been a long break, mostly because of me. I've been traveling. It's mostly on me. Um, and we want to do this little update for you on where things have gotten to. Our agenda today is we're going to start with some updates from Thomas and Dustin. We're going to talk about reports a little bit, and then there's been a bunch of talk the on the Discord server in particular around syncing, although there's also some PR stuff to talk about. So let's just jump in. Um, Thomas, do you want to go first and give us the TimeWarrior updates, and then Dustin with the TaskWarrior?
Yeah, so from TimeWarrior, there have been some small progress or some small updates in the last 2 months or even more. Apart from some bug fixes and the usual maintenance and maybe also some documentation updates, maybe one thing I want to point out is that TimeWarrior will have an import command in the next release. Meaning that it can now also read in the data as it is exported by the export command, which may be interesting for people who want to transfer the data from one instance to another. It's not really intended for the normal user or for the normal use cases, so for everyday use, more for, okay, I have set up a new TimeWarrior instance on another computer and I want to transfer all my data and maybe do not want to do this by just copying, pasting my directories, but do it a little bit selectively. So that would then be possible, and it's also intended for further steps when we maybe or have updates to. So I'm still planning to maybe have some update on the storage format. That this is also easier for users to pull off then, because then they just can export, import, and everything is set up again. Yes, so from that, I'm still working on an upgrade on the modify command. Don't know whether I will finish that soonish. So the question is whether I will make a release in then first and then continue on that or complete that. So I'm still investigating that. But from the usual pace, I think there's one new release on the horizon. So far, I managed this at least to have one release with one new feature per year. Slow but steady. Yeah. So far from my side, I think I've extended my time frame long enough.
Awesome, thank you. Dustin, over to you.
So there's been a couple minor things in the TaskWarrior world. One of them is the bug was reported for fish, but I think this would apply to any shell completion. If you don't have a task directory and you type task and hit tab, fish would try to run TaskWarrior to see what the possible commands were, and TaskWarrior would say, "Hey, you don't have a database. Do you want to set it up?" And they just kind of deadlock there, so fish would hang. So we fixed that, which by just that particular subcommand now doesn't try to auto create a database. Relatively straightforward fix, but should be a good usability improvement for people new to TaskWarrior. Right? That's our kind of like, that's the first thing you try to do is task, hit tab, and it crashes. It's not a great first experience. We had a report of some escape sequence handling in hooks. It turned out this was largely down to not a bug in TaskWarrior, but a bug in handling things with backslashes in them in shell scripts. So, I think the TLDR is maybe writing hooks in shell script is potentially problematic, because if you it'll work for a while, and then you'll have a task with a backslash in it somewhere, and it's going to slightly munge that task over time, which is what this user saw. So not a lot we can do about that other than we upgraded the sort of built-in shell hooks to use the right shell syntax to not have this bug. But we can't fix other people's hooks that have already been written. And if someone's just sort of starting from scratch to write a hook, they might not know to do this. There is some thinking going on a new hooks interface. Whether that's baked into Task Champion or part of TaskWarrior is a little unclear. Still kind of very early ideation stage, but this is something that's feeding into that. Is could we find a way to write hooks that's less susceptible to this kind of encoding issue, and kind of interfacing different languages and things like that in a more reliable way. We also had an issue where reports and I think task info don't show the tags if you after task edit. And the background to this is that several years ago, we took out the tags property of a task, which was a comma separated list of tags, and replaced it with a different property for each tag. And thought we hit everywhere that was looking at that tags property and converted it to look at the individual tag properties, but apparently missed a few. And one of those was the reports. So the tags column just looked at that tags property, separated by comma, and then wrapped it for display. And the task info looked at that tags property and same thing. And task edit, for reasons I don't remember, I added a line there that removes that tags property, leaving only the per tag properties. And the intention was to keep both so that things would keep working, but I guess I got a little carried away in that spot. So if you ran task edit and made any change, it would delete that tags property, and that revealed this bug in the reports and in task info. So the fix was just to fix those two bugs in those two places. And I removed this line from task edit because it was unnecessary. So that should work a little better in the next release if you're running into that bug. A big usability issue was just that the man pages have a lot of useful information in them, but they weren't on the web. So we fixed that up. The TaskWarrior.org docs site now has links to all the man pages, and those are, we automated updating those as part of the TaskWarrior release process. So when we make a new TaskWarrior release, the new man pages will get uploaded there. So that helps with task sync, documenting how to do task sync, and all of the task subcommands, task RC configuration values. Like those are all authoritatively enumerated there, and now you can get to them with a web browser. It's 2025. Okay, so switching over to, well, maybe we'll come back to the sync stuff later. Yeah. The rest of these are about. Actually, one thing I will mention is we are also publishing documentation for the Task Champion sync server, and that's in general kind of getting fleshed out a little bit right now. But one of the things I'm thinking a lot about is like, let's document stuff more, because we're getting a lot of questions that are showing that things aren't clear to people. That's kind of good general feedback from Discord. So we'll try to write some things that help clarify these differences and put that in the place that people will find the information when they need it. That's part of the project. I think that's it for the last month for the TaskWarrior area, other than syncing that we're going to talk about shortly.
Yeah, that's terrific. Thank you. In thinking about reports specifically, there was a question about the TimeWarrior summary report, and I was wondering, Thomas, could you give us a bit of a rundown on the philosophy around how that summary report works and why it was chosen to work that way?
We'll try. So maybe from the context, there always, I guess, or there have been, and there always will be some requests. Can't the summary report displays things like this, like that, the times in that format, and maybe take the chance here to explain and some or my point of view on the summary report. So from this standpoint, the summary report is mainly intended to give the user a quick look at what tasks are currently running. And so especially in combination with the modify commands where you need the ID of the task you want to modify. So having a TimeWarrior summary, you see, that task has this ID currently, and then you can issue the commands. It's not intended to be parsed and processed by other scripts or something like that. So I think in Git speak, it's a porcelain command and not a plumbing command. And also from that point, I would say that the philosophy is also to keep it rather simple, to have some configuration. One example I would mention here is that you can, since some time, switch on and off whether IDs are displayed or not. At the very beginning, it was only via specifying a hint, the IDs hint. Meanwhile, you already can do it with configuration values, and with the upcoming release, I think, or was it already the last one? At least with the new TimeWarrior, for new users, this is already set, so they do not have to issue TimeWarrior summary IDs every time they want to see them. It's more or less their default value. For present users, the configuration was not touched. They would have to upgrade that, but it's now possible to configure those settings also with the configuration. So I think that the short summary is there will be updates to the summary reports. There will be maybe some possibilities to configure it a bit more, a bit less, a bit more. But in general, it's not intended to be some highly ultra configurable report that will fit every use case. From my point of view, that's not possible to do at all. Or if you try it, you more or less end in some configuration hell. So at that point, you more or less, if you want to have something highly configurable and tailored to your needs, the general recommendation is write your own custom report extension for that. We will make everything possible so that you can the TimeWarrior delivers the data you require for that and supports it, but it makes everything much more easier for the project itself. So yeah, I think that's more or less the gist here.
Oh, thanks. That really clears things up. I love that. When we switched over to version 3 of TaskWarrior, one of the big things that was provided for with the new backend is better syncing. And there's been a lot of talk on the Discord server in particular about people trying the syncing and using the syncing. And Dustin, could you give us an update on what's going on there and why it's working so well? Dustin, I think you may be muted.
My usual key combination to unmute doesn't work on this laptop, but I forgot. There's been a few new integrations with the sync, which is really kind of the main point of introducing this particular way of doing sync, was that other applications can talk via sync with TaskWarrior. So we've always had BugWarrior and a few other tools like that, which kind of could add tasks and manage tasks and integrate with other applications. We wanted to make that easier. And we also wanted to make it easier to write different front ends to your tasks UIs. So Android apps had always been difficult to write. I think there were 3 or 4 attempts to write Android apps against 2.x. And they were all very difficult to maintain because it's very difficult to make an executable called task and then run that with command line arguments in Android. And that was the way to interface to TaskWarrior 2.x. So Task Champion can be linked into Java, which one of these projects is working on, the Android app. So you can link that directly into Java, call Task Champion directly, do all of the sync, all of the task modification using regular function calls in Java. And same if you want to build a Python app for a web app or something like that. We can make multiple language bindings here. So I'm excited to see that happen in this Android app, and I think that Android app will probably be easier to maintain, and easier to maintain things tend to attract more contributors. So hopefully this is something where we can get, it's very early stages right now, but hopefully this is a project that can kind of get some momentum behind it, get a number of people, and maybe have a longer lifetime because of that. There's also work on a Telegram bot, which is in Python. Again, very early stages. I'm working on improving two things. I've got two focuses right now. One of those is there's been a lot of questions, like I was saying earlier, specifically about sync and what is Task Champion? What is Task Champion Sync Server? How do they relate to TaskWarrior? Do I have to build Task Champion if I want to build TaskWarrior? And like, I can understand that confusion because the answers to these are written down partially in a bunch of different places, and you have to kind of find all of those places and read them and synthesize the information to understand it. So I'm going to try and write some high-level documentation of like, this is what this overall system looks like, and then point to more specific documentation of how to set up a sync server, what your options are other than sync servers, and kind of give people a decision tree all the way down from what the heck is this to, okay, these are the commands I'm going to type to get my problem solved. The other part I'm working on of that is Task Champion Sync Server till now has been kind of a, what's the phrase? A demonstration, basically, a way of saying this is the HTTP server side of this protocol, and we've proven you can implement it. If you want to do something more advanced, here's a template you can kind of follow and work from there. And I think this is actually more useful as a thing that other people could plug in. So if someone wants to, build something like FreeSync, or even in the AM, or there's a couple other web apps out there that have worked with TaskWarrior, and there's others that use their own sync protocols. You would need something more than what we had written, a month ago. So part of that is breaking it into modules to make it more reusable so that you can plug it into whatever framework you want to use. And part of it is giving it more production-ready tools. So right now it has a SQLite backend, and if you're going to have more than a couple of users, that's not going to be enough. It doesn't scale that way. So I'm working on a Postgres backend, and Postgres is very easy to deploy these days. Lots of hosting companies will do it for you, and it's easy to do yourself if you want. But that can support, thousands and thousands of users at least. So should allow someone to kind of have the pieces they need to build an application out, whether they want to do that for free. And one of the folks here is on the Discord is setting up a free sync server. I don't want to overwhelm them with traffic because, like I said, more than a couple of users and it's going to start to struggle. But maybe they'll be able to upgrade to the Postgres version and still support that for a relatively affordable price. And if we want to scale up from that to things that aren't free, that should be possible too. I want to build the tools that someone can take that opportunity with. So that's what's going on in the sync world. Hopefully kind of generating some excitement there, and people will take that and run with it and solve their own problems and maybe solve other people's problems too.
No, that sounds like both TaskWarrior and TimeWarrior have made some really excellent and useful strides in the last 2 months, and this is really continues to be a very exciting project. And I'm really delighted that you guys could take the time this morning to pop in and give us some updates. Thank you very much, and we'll let everyone return to their usual day. Bye.
Thank you.